Good evening and welcome. I'm Russ Spencer, evening anchor for Fox 5 in Atlanta, and you are watching the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young debate series. We are broadcasting from the studio of Georgia Public Broadcasting in Atlanta, and we welcome viewers from across the state and the country. This is the runoff debate for the U.S. Senate seat currently held by Senator David Perdue of Georgia. The candidates are, in alphabetical order, Democrat Jon Ossoff. He is CEO of Insight TWI, a media production company that investigates corruption, organized crime, and war crimes for international news organizations. Republican David Perdue has served in the U.S. Senate since 2015. Before his election, he sat on the board of 5 major corporations and co-founded Perdue Partners, a global trading company.
Hey guys, so today I want to take a look at the Georgia runoff races between Kelly Loeffler and Raphael Warnock, that is the special election, as well as between Jon Ossoff and David Perdue. So as you just saw there in that clip, Jon Ossoff debated David Perdue, although David Perdue declined to show up. So basically Jon Ossoff was just answering questions at the podium, and Raphael Warnock did also debate Kelly Loeffler, and I'll put some highlights for both those debates at the end of this video if you guys are interested in taking a look at that. Definitely Democrats won. Raphael Warnock definitely beat Kelly Loeffler, and Jon Ossoff, of course, he can't really lose. And I think that with David Perdue not showing up, I think that is not going to hurt Jon Ossoff in any way. It can really only help him. I don't think it's going to help him that much, but there's no way it is going to hurt him, just Jon Ossoff going to a debate, because there were really no moments where Jon Ossoff was unable to answer anything. And, he made many strong attacks on David Perdue when David Perdue not being there was not able to defend himself. So I think that is going to help Jon Ossoff with some independent voters. So this is on 538. They have released their polling averages between Jon Ossoff and David Perdue and Raphael Warnock and Kelly Loeffler. So right now, Jon Ossoff is up 0.3% on average against David Perdue, and Raphael Warnock leads by 2.1% against Kelly Loeffler. So of course, David Perdue is the incumbent senator. He was elected in 2014, and at this time he was not able to reach 50%, which means according to state law in the state of Georgia, the election will go to a runoff on January 5th. Same thing here. Warnock won around 32% of the vote. Loeffler won around 25%, and there was of course Doug Collins also in the race, who is a Republican, and split the ticket for Kelly Loeffler. So if you take a look at the results here, Georgia special, as you can see, it was Warnock 32.9, Loeffler 25.9, and Collins 20, but Collins has supported Kelly Loeffler as of now after he lost this race, and Loeffler was appointed just this year after Johnny Isakson retired from the state of Georgia. And in the state of Georgia, the normal Senate election, you see that David Perdue was not able to reach 50%. Jon Ossoff reached 47.9%, so a 1.2% victory right here, or not 1.2, 1.8% victory for David Perdue against Jon Ossoff, and that's a little bit less than 100,000 votes. And both candidates, of course, underperformed Joe Biden's margin here in the state of Georgia. Of course, he was able to win this state, and he won 49.5% of the vote, winning 2.47 million votes. If you take a look at David Perdue, he won around 10,000, 12,000 less votes than Joe Biden did here in the state of Georgia. So definitely there were voters who voted for Joe Biden, but voted for David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler or Doug Collins here in the Senate level. So definitely Joe Biden did better, as he did basically all around the country, because there are more people who do not want Trump to be president, but are Republicans and do support Republican candidates down ballot. So Biden's victory here was historic. He was the first Democrat to win this state since 1992. That's 28 years ago. And these two Senate seats, they have not been held by a Democrat, for decades at this point, over 2 decades, since there's been a Democratic senator from the state of Georgia. But the state of Georgia is moving to the left in 2026. I do expect, these races to be in favor of the Democratic Party. They've already broken through on the presidential level, and now they just need a little bit more support on this Senate level. So the polls here, they show Ossoff and Warnock both leading over their Republican opponents. But if we take a look at the polls down here, basically 538 has adjusted them for their biases. Of course, Trafalgar Group is very much biased towards the right, and their polls always tend to skew towards right. So as you can see, after they adjusted these, the three latest polls from the normal Senate race between Perdue and Ossoff show Ossoff leading by 1, 2, and 3%. And then between Loeffler and Warnock, you saw one with Warnock +2, +6, and then the other one after these adjustments after the adjustments was a tie. Before that, it was +5 in favor of Loeffler. So really, the race is very close. And, a lot of people, including me, are starting to doubt these polls. I mean, in 2016, they were pretty far off. In 2020, they were even more far off. But on the presidential level in the state of Georgia, the polls were quite accurate. In the state of Georgia, polls were, they were really accurate. If you take a look at the state of Georgia, it was Biden plus 1.2% on average. He won the state in Indiana by a margin of 0.24%, as you can see. 49.5 to 49.26 against Donald Trump. So the polling here really wasn't too far off. It was a little bit less than 1% to the left. So still, it was still favoring Joe Biden, the poll numbers, compared to the actual results. However, they really were not too far off. If you take a look at these numbers, if you adjusted them by the same margin, Ossoff would lose, but Warnock would win. However, really, 0.3% is not too strong of a number. We've barely seen any polls out of the Georgia runoffs. There's really just been 7 polls, and we will probably get a lot more because these elections, they are very, very important. Really, if you can vote in this race, you really should vote in both of these races. They will decide the Senate. As you can see, right now is 48 to 50. Republicans need 51 seats because Kamala Harris, the vice president-elect, once she is in office, she will break the ties. So Republicans need 51 seats, Democrats need 50. So that means that Republicans need to just win one of these 2 seats, and Democrats need to win both. And right now, in my opinion, I'm not going to make a prediction for these races as of right now. I will in the near future. Give me around 2-3 weeks, so the race solidifies a little bit more. But I believe that Warnock will probably do better than Jon Ossoff. I think that Jon Ossoff is the better candidate. I do believe that if Jon Ossoff were to run against Loeffler and Warnock would have run against Perdue, I think that Ossoff would win his race against Loeffler, but Warnock would lose against Perdue. But I think that, you basically have the better candidates in the regular race, Jon Ossoff and David Perdue, and I guess the less popular candidates, Raphael Warnock and Kelly Loeffler here. Kelly Loeffler is not too popular in the state of Georgia, nor is David Perdue, but many Republicans do not want to vote for the Democratic candidate, for their senators, so that's why these Republicans are still, receiving huge amounts of support. And I do think that Jon Ossoff is at a little bit of a disadvantage just because he lost the last race. However, the good thing for Democrats is that Joe Biden was able to flip the state of Georgia. This gives Democrats that momentum and that excitement to get more Democrats, not more Democrats, but just Democrats to vote in general, because the turnout, no matter what happens, is going to be lower. There are not going to be, that 5 million voters, 5.1 million voters that voted on the general election level in Georgia. They are not going to vote again. We're not going to see 5 million votes. We might see 4, but really, it's not going to be as high. It's not going to be nearly as high. Both Republicans and Democrats are going to see lower turnout. Typically, historically speaking, Democrats do see lower turnout in these runoff elections. However, in this case, it's a little bit different because Georgia right now, Democrats are very enthusiastic after Biden first won it. And Democrats right now, what they need to do is they do not need to get new voters. They need to make sure that the voters who voted for Joe Biden and the voters who voted for them on election night come out again. And Republicans, they have the same problem, but their problem is a little bit bigger because a lot of Republicans are boycotting this race. If you take a look at this, many Republicans are very upset with Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue because they did not support Donald Trump, or they think that they did not support Donald Trump enough in his fight to win the state of Georgia. They think that they should, do more about it. And in the debate, Kelly Loeffler declined to say that Biden won the election, but she didn't really say that Trump won the election either. So, really, that's I don't think that's something that the Georgians would be too happy about, especially the Republicans in the state of Georgia. But many of them are saying that you should just boycott the race if their senators are not going to be strong enough on this issue defending Trump and saying that he won the state of Georgia, because Brian Kemp, declined, to say that Trump was the winner and that there was any sort of, voter fraud in the state. So the Republicans are very upset, but Trump is campaigning in Georgia, telling people to vote for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, which is probably going to help them. But still, there's still going to be those Republicans who do not want to vote. And just they lost the election. I mean, they lost the race in Georgia on the presidential level. And those Trump supporters, a lot of them are going to be, not enthusiastic about this and just not vote because they voted and Trump still lost the state of Georgia. So Democrats right now, they won it once, and now they're trying to win it again on the Senate level. Two races that they really did not win. I mean, the results are going to be pretty similar in my opinion, but I do think that David Perdue is going to do a little bit better than Kelly Loeffler, and of course Ossoff doing better also doing a little bit worse than Raphael Warnock if they were both to win. But really, these races are very, very close right now. If we were to take a look at the polling here from 2020 on the presidential level, this race was pretty close. All the polls had it, kind of close, I guess. I mean, Morning Consult +2, that wasn't too bad, but many of these polls, they were really just pretty far off. So Morning Consult was really the closest. YouGov was also pretty close there with Biden +1. It's basically as close as you can get if it was not, even. But, YouGov, even race there, so that would, be the closest one. So the polls in Georgia, they really were not, that far off. I mean, if you take a look at some other states, if you take a look at a state like Michigan, I mean, Biden +7.9%. He ended up winning the state of Michigan by a margin of, just a little bit under 3%, 2.8%. If you take a look at some other state, Wisconsin, this was the big surprise. +8.4%. Take a look at the map. It was literally less than 1% in the state of Wisconsin. So really, the polls in Georgia, they were pretty well compared to the rest of the country. They really were not that far off. If we were to take a look at the betting odds for this race, they do not favor the Democrats. They both favor David Perdue, and the other one favoring Kelly Loeffler. So Perdue currently, his share is at 68 cents, 35 for Jon Ossoff. You can basically say that this is their percentage chance of winning based on what people think, with their money. And really, this is much more accurate than the polling data in terms of not polling data, but just in terms of who people think is going to win this race, because they're betting money. So you don't want to bet against yourself. If you think that Perdue is going to win, you're not going to bet on Ossoff, even if you do support Ossoff. So, 35%, that's still pretty considerable. He can still definitely win. 35% is over a third, so really it's not that small. But Perdue, most people do believe right now that Perdue is going to win the race in the state of Georgia. We'll see how the numbers continue to play out. This is the special election runoff between Loeffler and Warnock. As you can see, this is right before the election. This is after the election. But Warnock's numbers have increased at 43 to Loeffler at 60, and that will increase tomorrow. So really, these numbers are not the best for Republicans, but betting odds do not decide elections, voters do. So make sure you vote. I believe the last day to register has already passed. So if you're registered, make sure you do go vote if you live in the state of Georgia. This is really very, very important. It will literally decide the makeup of the Senate. And Ossoff called Perdue a coward for not debating him. He had to debate himself, as you saw earlier in this video. And again, I'm gonna put more highlights just so you guys can take a look at what happened on Sunday. So really, I think that it was not too great of a move by Perdue. It's not going to help him. But if you think about it, he does have a lot of things he has to answer to. With his stock trading and all of that, he's traded more stocks in a single term than any senator in history. I believe it's over 2,400 stocks or something like that he's traded in his 6-year term. So really, he has a lot of things to answer for. Investing huge amounts on masks, mask companies and pharmaceutical companies after he got those private briefings. So really, he had a lot to answer for. And I think that's hitting out on this debate. would make it so that he wouldn't have to answer some questions that he really can't answer or he can't provide too great of an answer to, and that's why he did not participate in this debate after Ossoff did very well in the first one a month ago. So the race right now is really close. Most people do think that Republicans are going to win. However, the polling data says otherwise, and although, the polling data isn't going, 100% correct, it is still fairly accurate here in the state of Georgia. But, no matter what, it's not looking that great for Republicans. 6 years ago, this would have been a done deal for the GOP, but now with Biden winning the state, it really is a toss-up at this point in time. These two races are going to be very close. No matter who wins, it's going to be a very close race, and there are almost definitely going to be recounts, in my opinion. It's going to be less than 1%. I don't see these races being over 1%, even though Perdue was able to win by 1.8%. It's going to shrink, in my opinion, even if that Libertarian candidate, even if her votes mostly go to David Perdue, it's still going to be very, very close. So this race, these races are going to be very interesting. They will be held on January 5th, so make sure you watch out for that. And so I have a Discord server link at the very top of the description below, so make sure you join that if you have not, because we'll be updating guys on these races once they come and stuff like that. We'll also probably have some sort of betting system. You can bet some stuff on these races for fun, just betting on the margins and stuff like that. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will be including some clips right here at the end, so make sure you enjoy them, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Well, it's a strange situation to be asking a question of a sitting United States senator who is not here to debate as he asks for the votes of the people to be reelected. Senator Perdue, I suppose, doesn't feel that he can handle himself in debate, or perhaps is concerned that he may incriminate himself in debate, both of which, in my opinion, are disqualifying for a U.S. senator seeking re-election. He may not wish to be asked questions, for example, about his trades in Regions Bank while he championed legislation to benefit the firm, or his trading of defense contractor stocks while he directed taxpayer dollars to them. But whatever the reason that Senator Perdue is not with us today, I think what I would ask him is why he continues to oppose $1,200 stimulus checks for the American people at this moment of crisis.
Did Donald Trump lose the recent presidential election?
President Trump has every right to use every legal recourse available. In our own state, we've seen time and again that we have investigations that need to be completed. Everything's at stake on January 5th for the future of our country. If the Democrats win, they will defund the police. They'll keep our country locked down. They want more lockdowns. They'll raise your taxes in the middle of a pandemic.
Reverend Warnock, 30 seconds.
I've been moving all across this state, especially going to rural areas. And when I go to these small towns, they're surprised that I'm there. I'm surprised that they're surprised they haven't seen a U.S. senator. And they're wondering why their hospitals are closing, why Kelly Loeffler doesn't think it's a good idea to make sure that they have health care in the middle of a pandemic. We refuse to expand Medicaid in the state. 9 of our hospitals are closing, have closed, and they're wondering who in Washington is looking out for them. They're wondering when in the world are they going to get some COVID-19 relief. They haven't gotten any from Kelly Loeffler in months. And when she had a chance to stand up for ordinary people, she thought $600 was too much. Meanwhile, she was busy dumping millions of dollars of stock, profiting from a pandemic. Who does that?